Welcome to Healdish, the space where healing gets real and you don't have to have it all together to grow. Each week we explore the nervous system, emotional resilience, and the journey from surviving to thriving. You're not broken, you're healing, and you don't have to do it alone. This is Healdish. Let's begin. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Healdish. I am your host, Gina. I'm a certified neurotransformative therapeutic art specialist, and I welcome you on this fine Monday morning, on this fine Monday evening to each and every one of you. So it's so good to be back. I actually tried doing a live, I believe it was like last Thursday or Friday evening, and it was an absolute mess. And so it's good to be back. We've had some different things that have kept me, from doing it, life, kids, work, the whole 9 yards. But I am back this evening to kind of share a little bit of some things that are going on and things like that too. So if this is your first time here at Healdish, I welcome you. Again, I'm your host, Gina. I'm a certified neurotransformative therapeutic art specialist, kind of combined both of my names together. I'm actually a certified neurotransformative practitioner and also a certified NeuroSomatic Art therapeutic art specialist. NeuroSomatic Art is a art that I founded and created. And more or less for nervous system regulation skills and just blocks and limitations. But anyway, if this is your first time here on Healdish, I just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for being here. If you could hit the like and the subscribe, kind of share it out. We talk about real raw truth in correlation to mental health and trauma. And so there's so many after effects of trauma coming from a neuroscience, neurobiology, neurophysiology standpoint. And a lot of people don't understand exactly what trauma does to the body because we can't see it. And so again, trauma is what happened to you. Trauma is not what happened to you. It's what happened inside of you from the process. And so the after effects. And so that is more of the neuroscience, neurobiology, neurophysiology. What did that trauma do to me? And so I like to bring real raw truth because I have a lot of trauma survivors. We are the voice for the voiceless. So we are a community that allows you to be seen, heard, and supported. And so that's pretty much what our community is. We're a bunch of trauma survivors that come together, just to help. So I can lend a hand and help you and give you those tools and resources that you need. Some of us, we're still living in the dark. And I don't mean the dark as, to be negative, but we just haven't found our way out of the pit. So if we can really be that voice, and I can be that mentor, and just to be that positive role model to say things will get better, that this is just a season of our lives, but things do get better if you just hold on for the ride. And that, the things that I share hopefully will be enough to help you as, you learn to navigate this new lifestyle. And so I have shared, so many things, so many personal stories. And one of the things I wanted to share that was pretty interesting is, when you go through, when you look at how you used to be and then how you are today, like pre-healing, post-healing, however you want to look at it. And one of the things that I found, so interesting was I was looking at a picture from years and years ago, and I looked at myself and I was just like, wow, like that was the unhealed version of Gina. And it was those fake smiles. And, I was miserable inside, but I didn't know that I was miserable inside. But because I know what I know now, I look back and say, wow, I truly was miserable. I didn't love myself. There was a lot of things about myself that I did not like. And that was the unhealed version. And so then I did today, like what I look like today, totally different. I was able to drop about 80 pounds of weight. And it wasn't just physical weight. It was just the weight of the world, the weight off my shoulders. If you would have met me 3 or 4 years ago, you would have noticed that my shoulders were up in my ears like this. It was terrible. Excuse me, but that's what you would have noticed about me. but today I can relax. So the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders, not just, physically, but I think mentally as well. And that weight, is gone. And so when I looked at that picture and then I looked at my healing picture, it was just like, wow, like if more people could see the change when we start going from, unhealed to healing, and I say healing because it's a journey. It's a journey of getting over and learning. And so just one of those things that I'm just very grateful and blessed for that I have been given the tools and resources that I can pass on to each and every one of you, so you can use them on your own healing journey, and things like that. And so that's what we do here at Healedish. We just bring real raw truth, to the correlation between mental health and trauma is what we do here. And so welcome to all of my regulars, to Scott, Michael, Heather, Dave. So good to have each and every one of you. Also to all of you that are watching that may not be conversating in the chat, I welcome you on this Monday evening to Healedish. And so tonight's episode, what we're going to talk about is what retraumatization looks like as a trauma survivor. I tried actually doing this because, I know there's been a couple Mondays that I haven't been able to go live. And I said, you know what? I was kind of feeling it. And I think it might have been Friday. I tried going live, and I think that's what it was. And I don't have a room, like the room moderator right now. And so I was trying to, monitor the chat while I was doing it, because my husband wasn't able to monitor. And so there was just some comments that were in the chat that really irked me. And as a trauma survivor, I was just like, you have got to really be kidding me. Like, why are all these people, like, how insensitive is people? And just like this one here, like, I'm going to pop this up because this just goes to show you, I'm absolutely, people are moronic. Like, and you can tell that these are bots. These people have nothing else better to do with their life. And I should have, before I block them. So I have them up here so you can see what they're saying. And so it just irks me when people write these types of comments. And so, so I make sure that I hide this. And then of course, this person will be blocked and banned, and, their comments deleted. But somebody got on there because what we're talking about tonight, what re-traumatization looks like a trauma survivor. Somebody got on there and was saying that I hate Black people, that I'm racist, and it just turned into something absolutely ugly. Now, I didn't react until the end. I did call him a moron, which probably wasn't the best trauma-informed words to say, but you know what? I don't care. Like, if you're going to get on my podcast and you're going to downgrade and talk crap, then you know what, and you're trying to get my attention and be negative, like, hello, you're gone. So then somebody else got on there because when we go in and start talking about some things, one of the comments they brought up was, well, you deserve to be beat. Nobody deserves to be beat. I don't care if you're male or female. Nobody deserves to be beat in a relationship. If you're being beat in a relationship, you need to find safety. You need to find safe, like a safety ground. And you need to slowly try to get out of that relationship. I can't say just pack up and leave, because that is, going from my own. But some of the comments were just so disheartening. I was like, oh my goodness, like, these people are just like, I don't even know. But I didn't react because I was like, I'm not going to. It just goes to show you how ignorant and stupid people can be. I'm just going to leave it like that. And so when I thought about this topic, I thought, you know what? How many of us are really re-traumatized when we go and do something? What about trauma survivors that have endured childhood trauma? And we have our five senses. What about somebody that was domestically abused? Had domestic violence, and they were abused in a relationship. And what got me thinking was this. So I had a birthday, had to go get registration plates for my car. And so when I walked in, got my registration, all of that stuff. And the clerks, I was talking to the clerk and stuff like that. And I said, hey, my driver's license does not have it's not a federal ID one. What do I need? And she said, and I said, to be compliant so I can fly. If I want to fly back home, or I want to fly somewhere else, I could probably just use my driver's license, social, and have my birth certificate. But I'm like, what do I need? And in that moment, I understand that, that they aren't trauma informed. So, they're just doing what they are told to do. Same thing with, judges and lawyers and, and all of them. I really believe that all of these people should be trauma informed. And so what she said to me was, I need a copy of all of your marriage certificates. And instantly in that moment, it brought up my ex-husband. And I was like, holy Toledo, like, this is crazy. Um, and I don't think about that situation. But in that moment, when she mentioned marriage license, because we share a son, and I don't look at and I don't talk negative about his dad. And But in that moment, I had a flashback, like, holy mackerel, like, I was married to this guy. And there was a lot of hurt on both sides. And But in that moment, I had a flashback of going back. And so that's kind of what complex trauma does. When you have those flashbacks, it sets you back as if you're in that moment. And I was like, oh my goodness, this sucks, but it really did. And so I said to her, I said, um, I said to her in a gentle manner, I said, I really wish that that yourself and everybody in here could be trauma informed, because when you say things like that and somebody is in a domestic violence relationship, or they were married to somebody that way, that there was abuse, um, that's re-traumatizing to us. And she apologized, and I said, no, it's no fault of your own. But that's why, like, they don't understand. Judges don't understand. Lawyers don't understand. Child protective services don't understand. A lot of mental health professionals don't understand. Social workers don't understand. Unless you become trauma informed and you start learning about the neuroscience, the neurophysiology, the neurobiology, as far as how trauma affects us, and how re-traumatization, when it comes to complex trauma, how it literally sets us back into a flashback, you'll never understand walking in the shoes of a trauma survivor. And so I wanted to bring tonight to the table what re-traumatization looks like as a trauma survivor. And so think about it. When we're thinking about re-traumatizing, what happens? So the amygdala, we already talked about this. It's the fight or flight. It's the alarm that's sounding. Then what happens is when you're activated, your prefrontal cortex shuts off. It goes offline. So your logical thinking and executive functioning automatically shuts off. So then your nervous system automatically shifts into survival. So you have to know the difference between trauma memory and trauma activation. And so when all of this happens up here, your logical thinking goes out the window, that you step into that flashback and you're like, whoa, what's going on? And unless you have those tools those tools and resources really embedded, and you know what to do in that moment of activation, when you know what to do, you don't want to sit there. And because she caught me off guard, I had to sit there for a minute. But it took me a second. And then I was like, well, wait a minute, I'm safe. Like, I'm not in that situation. I'm safe. There's nobody that can hurt me. And so those are the things that you have to do. You have to learn to self-talk yourself out of it, and really ground yourself in the moment. And so that's what I did. And so I was grounding myself in the moment, and really looking at, okay, I'm safe. I'm okay. And using that as an educational moment, because she didn't know. So using that as an educational moment, which was, which the ending was beautiful. It sucked. Don't worry. Don't get me wrong. It did. It was very sucky when it started, but it was a beautiful moment for me to share. Okay, this is what happens to trauma survivors. And so it was a beautiful moment of that. And so I looked at, how does it show up in our lives? Like, how does it show up? And so, what we break down is examples. And so emotional flashbacks. So, you're feeling the emotions from the past without visual memories. And so, again, the body keeps the score. And so then what happens is the shame, fear, panic all comes out of nowhere. And then you're like, whoa, where'd that come from? It's because the body remembers. So then you become hypervigilant, and then you start scanning the room. Then you're startled easily. And then you start anticipating danger. So I'm sure that some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so this is what re-traumatization really looks like. And it's looking at learning those coping skills, learning those coping mechanism, learning grounding skills. So you can ground yourself in the moment that you are, that you have that panic. One of the things that I have been teaching my clients is when we have panic, it usually settles in our chest. And when it settles in our chest, we start hyperventilating, or we start breathing from the top of our chest. And so one of the things, I'm going to scoot back a minute here so you can kind of see what I've been, working on. But one of the things that I have been teaching my clients and doing it myself, because as you know, I started having panic in May. God healed me of that in September 13th, I believe it was. And so I'm healed of that. I have not had any, praise God. But one of the things that when I feel maybe a little bit of anxiety, or I feel a little bit of that heaviness from, day-to-day things and stuff like that. And so one of the things that you can do is to open up your chest, and it allows you to breathe easier. So you don't feel like you have an elephant sitting on your chest, is to hold your arms out like this and to bring your shoulder blades back together. You don't have to have your hands up like that if you don't want. But what I want you to do is really bring those shoulder blades back together. And what I want you to do is I want you to count to 10 and then release them. And then, release them and just, inhale in your nose. And then slowly exhale out of your mouth. And then you can do it again if you want. And so what you're doing is you are actually opening up your chest area, and you are alleviating the stress, that heaviness up in this area, and you're opening up all of your lung areas, exactly what you're doing in the moment. And so it really works. It's been an amazing tool for myself. It's been an amazing tool for my clients. And so you can't be in two places at once unless you're straddling the state line, which means you can't be regulated or dysregulated at the same time. You can only be one or the other. And so that's why they always say, try to concentrate on something, because it'll take whatever's dysregulating you, it'll take you out of that, and it'll shift you into regulation. Even if it's just for a little bit, you'll shift. That's why I love doing the art, because if I'm drawing for an hour or two, I'm regulated. And usually that regulation carries over for the rest of the day or the rest of the night. And so when you start implementing these coping skills, they're going to stick with you, and then your body's going to automatically do them. If you train your body, they will automatically do it. And that's what I absolutely love. Fawning, people pleasing. And so you're going to try to prevent conflict. So those people that are arguing with you, you may be like, okay, you may either agree with them, or you might just kind of walk away, people please, knowing that they're wrong because you don't like conflict. I used to be that person. Although my people pleasing wasn't conflict, my people pleasing was I didn't want to lose friends. And so I didn't care if you hated me. I didn't care if you backstabbed me. I didn't care if you didn't like me. Hi, Fifi. I didn't care. All I cared about was having people in my circle. If it didn't matter if you were negative or positive, it didn't matter, because I grew up not having a whole lot of friends, and so I didn't care. The only thing I cared about was having you in my circle. And so again, I didn't care. I people pleased. I would agree with you even if I knew you were wrong, because I didn't want to lose my friend circle. And so because I grew up in such a negative environment, and so it was biological and environmental, that's a lot of my friends, that's exactly what they were. They were negative, but that was normal to me. That was familiar behavior. So I thought it was normal. And so those are the type of people that I would hang around with until God shifted my friendship. God shifted a lot of those people out of my life. And now he's giving me people that are elevating me. And it's absolutely amazing. Like at first it was scary. So I'm like, where'd all my friends go? Like everybody has disappeared. Where are you all at? And then God started bringing me more and more sisters in Christ and brothers in Christ that were there to elevate me. And I was like, oh God, okay, it's you. And so I'm right now in a season of contemplation. I'm not in a season of loneliness or isolation, like some people will say. I'm in a season of finding out who I am, finding out a season of I'm on this healing journey. Who am I really? Who am I? I haven't known who I was for the longest time because I was so worried about my trauma. My trauma literally had me being a whole nother person. I read something the other day that was really eye-opening to me. It was about borderline personality disorder. And, as I always say, like, I'm not a doctor. I can't treat, cure, diagnose, whatever, but it was just interesting to me because when you have a dysregulated nervous system, think about it. You are not the same person you are when you're regulated. So you might, it's not saying that you have multiple personalities, but your personality changes in the environment that you're in. Think about it. And so if you're around somebody that makes you mad, you might come off being angry. If you're in an environment that, like being in God's presence, you're going to be regulated, feeling God's love. You're going to feel at peace. Totally different. See, regulated, dysregulated, it's totally different. And so what I read was you cannot diagnose borderline personality disorder with somebody that has a dysregulated nervous system. You ultimately have to be regulated because that's when you find you. That's where I'm finding myself. I've had so many misdiagnoses my entire life. And so I'm really looking at things going, wow, when your nervous system is regulated, you really start shining and you really start finding out who you truly are. And you do. And I'm finding that out now. Thank you, Felicia. She said, this is inspiring. Thank you. You are more than welcome, sister. We start over. So now we're going back to fawning and people pleasing again. So now you start over apologizing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Even if it wasn't your fault, you apologize. And that goes back to, again, it goes back to people pleasing, fawning, taking responsibility for other people's emotions. So if you say something and they have a reaction, it's automatically your fault. Well, what if you don't know? Just like, for instance, using this, it wasn't the lady in the registry's fault because she had no idea. But it's similar. It's different, but it's similar. And so you can't take the responsibility of other people's emotions. You can only be control of your own. The only responsibility that you have is yourself, nobody else but yourself. And if you don't know what you're in control of, you need to go on Google and you need to type in the control and what is it? Control and don't control. There's a sheet that somebody made, an amazing sheet, and it literally has a circle of what you can control and what you can't control. And what is it that you can control? Well, let's see. You control what time you go to bed, what TV shows you watch, what you eat, all of those things. Things that you can't control are, you can't control what I do. You can't control what I eat. You can't control what time I go to bed. And it's kind of like, stay in your own lane. You have to worry about you and stop worrying about everybody else. I got to the point that when it came to people pleasing and fawning, I'm at the point now, if you don't like me, that's fine. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. That's perfectly fine. But the indication for me to know that I was okay with not having many friends was when, and I share this, when I did not get invited to somebody's birthday party and another friend brought it up to me. And I literally, like, I seen this friend and we were talking and stuff. And I said, hey, I just want to let you know, and the old Gina would have never brought this up, never. But I said to her, hey, I heard that you had a birthday party and I wasn't invited. And her face got really shocked. And I said, but let me tell you, it's okay. I'm not upset and I'm not offended that I wasn't invited to your birthday party. Maybe a year and a half ago, I may have been, but I'm not anymore. I don't need to sit at everybody's table because I'm not welcomed at everybody's table, and that's okay. I'm at a place now of healing, and there's people that God has shifted in and out of my life, and you're only there for a season to help me, a season to allow me the opportunity to learn something. And I don't sit at a table where people talk about me. I just don't sit there anymore. And that was a huge, huge achievement for me, accomplishment for me, because a year and a half ago, I would have never said anything. I'm very open about things now. I'm very open because God is elevating me. And it's time for me to tell the enemy, you know what? No, we see you. I see you in relationships. It's time to go. Bye. It's time to go. You freeze or shut down. So you numb, you detach. What else do? You're unable to speak clearly. And so when that happens, you are more than welcome. See, the spirit knows, sis. Spirit knows. And so when you're unable to speak or think clearly, it's because of the free state, your brain automatically shuts off. So how many of you have anger issues? Okay. So anger is not a bad emotion. But when you start getting excessively angry and throwing things and okay, that's when anger is kind of like it shifts into that's not a good emotion when it takes you to those heights. Okay. So what is the first sign of anger? For me, when I start getting angry, it's usually my heart rate starts. My heart rate will start increasing, or I can feel my face getting flush. So how you understand what a trigger is you look at, okay, I am angry. What is the first sign of activation? Okay. I feel my face getting flush, and then my heart starts racing. Okay. In that moment, before you get to that point, before your prefrontal cortex shuts off and before your amygdala automatically comes in with a threat, danger, and automatically shuts off, you probably have 1 or 2 seconds before you can start with your coping skill. You have that window. It's a small window of tolerance right now, I'm sure. But you have that window of tolerance. You can say, okay, wait a minute. I'm having anger. Let me take a deep breath. Let me walk away. I know 1 or 2 seconds is not a lot of time. Trust me, I know. It's taken me a lot of time to be able to say, let me take a deep breath and walk away. Because the old Gina would have turned around and I would have been in your face in like less than a second. But now, because I'm looking at more of a healing, more of a professional, more of a I need to be responsible for what I do and what I say. And I have to be at a point that I'm not speaking on an emotional dysregulated level, that I need to be level. And if that means that I'm angry and I can't speak to you, just like we're talking now, and I'm going to start yelling and screaming at you, the best thing I can do is say, breathe. And I need to walk away for a second and gather my thoughts and be back. And so Dave says it takes a lot to get me to that point. And so, and now that I'm on this healing side, it does. But I used to hate, like I was an arguer. You can ask my husband. He's not in the chat, but you could ask him. I was an arguer. And the moment that you turned your back on me, it was on. I always say it was on like Donkey Kong. You never turn your back on me. It irritated the crap out of me because in that moment, you didn't care. You didn't care enough to hear, even if I was yelling and screaming at you, you did not care enough to listen to it because I was trying to get my point across because that's all I had. See, even my daughter knows. She said, yeah, you were. Because I would yell and scream. And if you walked away, it would irritate me because that's all I knew how to communicate was yelling and screaming because that's all that was mimicked in my home. That's all I had. And so when you walked away from me, you were telling me I didn't matter. You were minimizing me. You weren't listening to me. Like my thoughts didn't matter, even though I may have been yelling and screaming. But in that moment, you made me feel like crap. And then, but it was in that moment of me yelling that my prefrontal cortex was shut off. And I was just yelling and screaming and da because my logical thinking and my executive functioning was thrown out the window. But in my eyes, you were walking away from me, being very disrespectful, not listening to me. But now I know that that's not the case. So I have learned what activation feels like. I have learned what somatic reactions feel like. And so anger, because all of us get angry. So think about your activation. Think about when you go into a restaurant. Why are you sitting and with your seat against why are you sitting with your back against the wall in the first seat here? Why are you not sitting on the inside over here? Why is it when you sit with your back against the wall, why is it that you are literally looking and scanning every exit to make sure that you know the whole entire place? Why are you scanning it? Why? Because your body doesn't like that place. It's not safe. And so you're scanning if there's a threat or a danger, you want to be able to get out. As quick as you can, you want to be able to get out. And so in that moment, you become hypervigilant. So you probably feel your chest tightening. You probably feel nausea. You might be shaking, overwhelmed, fatigue, body memories. That's what we call the body keeps the score. It doesn't matter if you've been to that restaurant 500 times. All it takes is one time to walk in to a restaurant, to walk into that restaurant, and something in there activates you. And it activates you, and then you become like scanning. You're scanning for threat, you're scanning for danger, trying to figure out, okay, where am I going? Do, 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 in that moment. And so that it doesn't matter. What happens is you're picking up on something. It could have been a person that you've seen, could have been a drink, could have been the smell, anything. Could have been the atmosphere, could have been a song, could have been the smell of cologne. You don't understand how many things activate us. You have no idea until you have gone through it. And so looking at that and saying, okay, I'm becoming activated. How can I calm my nervous system down in that moment? So in that moment, what you would do, so you're not re-traumatizing yourself again, in that moment, you would use your coping skills, your grounding skills. So you would sit in that seat and you would feel your tush on the seat and literally feel your buttocks on the chair, whether you're on a hard bench, a soft seat, and you would literally like meld into the seat so you can feel your tush on the seat or on the cushion. Then you would lay have your feet flat on the floor. So you're actually touching the floor with your feet. Maybe tap your feet a couple times to know that you are grounding yourself in that moment and that you are safe in this moment. Those are skills that you need in your time of activation. And so one of the other things that I found pretty interesting was this, is that regression, when you're re-traumatized, you go back to your younger emotional age. So you go back, and I didn't know this. This was something that I just learned recently as I started studying more of the neuroscience and the neurophysiology, neurobiology aspect of the after effects of trauma. I didn't know this. And so this was like, wow, this is huge for me. But you actually, in the time of activation, when you're re-traumatized, you literally go back to your younger emotional age. And so that's why, like my clients, they'll say something and they go back, and when they're talking, it's like they're talking as if, they're a child, in that child sense. And I was like, oh, okay, now I understand why they do it. Because in that moment of activation, we go back, we regress back to our younger emotional selves. And so what we do is we act the age that the wound was created. And I didn't know that. So I was like, holy smokes. And so it makes sense because when I'm activated, I've shared this with you all before. When I'm activated, and you can be activated whether you're listening to a song, watching a movie. There's triggers all around us, but it's a matter of how you handle that trigger. And so there's times that I'm triggered at home, and so I see why, going back to our younger self, we go back to when the wound was created. It's interesting because I see my inner child at 5 years old wanting to sit on my husband's lap because that's safety to me. I didn't have that growing up. And so my husband is my safe person. And so being able to just sit and have him hold me makes me feel safe. And so now I understand why I do that. And so in those moments, we feel small, powerless, scared, or confused. And so we need a safe person, a safe place. We need to know those tools and resources. And so Pete said, and I don't know if he's still here, but he said that's prison mentality. And absolutely, I mean, I guess if that's what you want to say, but being a trauma survivor, going through the things that we're doing, literally, we are like we're in prison. Literally, we feel trapped. We're trapped in a body 24/7 without any escape in sight. So if that's what we are looking at, then yeah, we are literally trapped 24/7 until you start healing. But most people don't know what they don't know. It's familiar. So you have no idea that you're being re-traumatized. You have no idea that you're being activated because it's familiar, very familiar. That's why kids that are being mistreated at home and yelled and screamed and verbally abused and things at home. Now, don't get me wrong. There is there's a difference between being yelled at and being verbally abused. Okay. So I know the difference. You can yell at your children, but when you start verbally abusing them, then it becomes abuse. Okay. And so we're talking about children that are verbally abused at home. And now they're going to sports and now they're being verbally abused. Their coaches are verbally abusing them. So now they're being re traumatized again. But guess what? They don't understand they're being re traumatized because it's a familiar atmosphere. So do you see what I mean? It's finding out that these things are not normal. These are not normal circumstances. And breaking that intergenerational trauma, breaking those intergenerational curses, that's exactly what we're talking about. When you start spewing and spewing and spewing onto your kids and onto your kids, you know, and then all of a sudden they start doing it to their kids. And then you go, wait a minute, what are you doing? Why are you yelling at your kids that way? And they turn around and say, you know what, mom? Because, because you that's how you talk to us. It's a learned environment. It's learned. Kids these days are growing up with social media. So we can't relate to them because back in the day, we didn't have social media. We didn't have all this stuff. We didn't have all of the stuff that these kids have now. They have, we had part of the internet, but these kids have all this social media, all of this internet. They can look up anything and everything they want to. Their brains aren't developed yet. So the things that they're looking at, they have no idea if it's real or fake. They don't understand that keeping up with the Joneses is fake, that the Joneses are probably, that the Joneses are they're a real family, but they're probably in debt $5,000-$6,000 to have all they have. But are they perfect? No. No family is perfect, but they're perfect in the eyes of social media. I could come on here and talk every Monday and say my life is perfect, da 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 da. And I could persuade you that my life is absolutely perfect. But I would feel horrible because my life is not perfect. I want people to relate to me, to the Gina, to the authentic Gina, finding who I am. Because that's where connection happens. That's when relationships start healing, when you're real and raw. When you're positive, when you're a positive role model from somebody. So this is me. This is who you get. Not the Joneses, not the Smiths. That's the reality. These kids think they're keeping up with them. Oh, I need an iPhone 22. Or, oh, I need the latest video games. Or, oh, I need, $1,500 tennis shoes. No, you don't need $1,500 sneakers, kid. I don't know what you're thinking. Oh, well, the Joneses have it. Well, you know what? We're not the Joneses and we're not keeping up with them. But that's the life that they portray. And they don't know that it's fake. It's a big, huge facade. And they don't know that because their brains can't comprehend that. So it goes back to, logical thinking, executive functioning. It's the whole thing is just, it's amazing how it all works and how it all comes together when you really start understanding exactly what's going on. And so again, why don't we understand what's going on? Because it goes back to personality flaws. And then again, like I said, minimizing our own trauma. Exactly when I would argue with you and you turn your back on me to walk away, I felt minimized, but I was minimizing my own trauma. You grew up in chaos because guess what? You thought chaos was normal. Your trauma responses feel automatic. And then of course we didn't have education back then about nervous system dysregulation and all of this stuff. And, it was, oh, your child has ADHD, your child has autism, your child has ADD or ODD. There's a reason that children have these things. That's a whole nother episode, but there's a reason. What are they watching? What are they listening to? Who's their role model? What are they doing? Who is influencing them? What does the environment look like? What is the biological, meaning what is the DNA passed down into them? Because this is something really that is interesting and will probably like be like, holy smokes, like this is cool. It's cool. So this is goes back to, I believe it's called epigenetics, I believe is what it's called. And I think that's what it is. And so for me, I'll use myself as an example. So my eggs were in my mom. My mom's eggs were in my grandmother. My grandmother's eggs were in my great grandmother. So I was literally, my mom and me and my grandmother were in my great grandmother. Okay. So back then they endured a lot of stuff, I'm sure. Okay. So those eggs were already affected, which means I was already affected. So when my grandmother was born, my mom and me were in my grandmother because we were part of her eggs because I was in my mom, remember? Okay. So then my grandmother had a lot of trauma. So therefore when my mother was born, her eggs were affected, which means that my eggs would be affected because I was in there. I was in, I was in her ovaries. And so when I started having children, I was unhealed. And so I did act like a lunatic. I was verbally abusive. I did hit my kids. And maybe I hit them a little too hard. Um, but my it wasn't so much hitting as much as it was yelling. I was a yeller. I wasn't so much a hitter. I was a yeller. And I would yell and scream like a lunatic. And now I know why. But like I've told you before, now that I'm on the other side of healing, the hardest thing for me was going back and telling all 5 of my children, I am sorry for the pain that I caused you. I'm sorry that I did the things that I did. I'm sorry that I said the things that I said to you. I didn't mean those to you. I was coming out of a place of hurt, out of a place of shame and guilt. And I'm sorry that I even ever put that on any of you. And that was the hardest thing. Saying, having an apology is hard. But when it's your kids, I think it's a little bit harder because they look up to you. And now what I do is I talk to them about things. Hey, you know what? I'm sorry that I did this. Or I look at things that they're doing and I say, hey, you know what? I may have did that, but that's not the right way to do things. Here, let's try this. And I try to encourage them in a different way because I didn't know what I didn't know. What I went through was familiar. So when my grandmother raised my mom and then she raised me, that's all she knew. She didn't know that it was wrong. That was a familiar environment to her. And so because there was no education on nervous system regulation and all of that stuff, we all just kind of grew up being dysregulated. And so I firmly believe, and not firmly believe because research shows some other things when it comes to ADD, ADHD, and ODD. There's a lot of research surrounding that goes back to the prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex, which is part of your brain here. If they're offline, then that's when ADHD, because you can't think. Your logical thinking kind of goes out the window. Your laziness. You're not really lazy. It's a trauma response. We talked about that too a couple weeks ago. And so all of this goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand. And so then what happens is we start blaming ourselves instead of the trigger. I shouldn't feel this way. This is absolutely stupid. Why am I doing this? Body, why are you doing this? Instead of sitting with the moment and the trigger and saying, what are you teaching me? Why am I having this trigger? What inside this environment is triggering me? I still get triggered. Straight honest. There's a lot of there's a lot of things that still trigger me that I'm working on. But I'm working through them. I'm showing up for myself. I'm doing things. I'm getting out. I'm public speaking. I am showing up at events. I'm literally talking about my art, talking about my conference. I'm talking because that's what God wants me to do. The enemy is the one that's trying to silence me. And I'm like, yep, nope, see you later, buddy. Bye. No. And so I'm getting out and I'm doing these things because that's what God wants me to do. I need to educate these people exactly why I'm sitting here in front of you today. And so, we've already talked about, the misunderstood triggers. And so it goes back to what's the emotionals. And we talked about it: sounds, smells, or sorry, this goes back to the environmental, sorry, sounds and smells, tone of voice. Are you coming at me? Are you yelling? Are you, slamming doors? Is there chaos? Like, what is it within your environment? So if you're dysregulated and activated, can you imagine what your child is? Then you're yelling and screaming at your child before they go to school. Then you wonder why they're activated and dysregulated. And then they're calling it ADHD. Sorry, you might hate me at the end of this, but I'm just being real raw and truthful, because you have to go back to looking at genetics. You have to go back and look at your environment, your biological, look at your environment. Kids just don't one day wake up with ADHD. They don't wake up with ADD. They don't work. I'm looking at this and I'm speaking from life experiences. I'm not downgrading anybody. I'm speaking from my own life experiences because I have a child that is on the spectrum. I have a child that had ODD. I have a child that they think is ADHD. I think I'm ADD. But because of the research now, I'm going, oh, I need to get my brain more online. So I need to do more nervous system regulation skills. I need to do more trauma-informed movements. So I'm a huge advocate for all of this because I know the hell that I went through as a child. And I do not want my child to go through the same exact thing that I went through. I want to be able to change. Now that I'm changing, I want to be able to help others change and change their environment. Because our kids are being labeled and our kids are being medicated, and all they need is to have their nervous system regulated. That's all they need. I like dance party. I like dance party. And here I will tell you why. I know I get off on these tangents, but this goes back to dance party. Dance party is one of those things that as trauma survivors, movement. You need to move to get whatever that built up trauma, that tension, those uncertainties, whatever's in your body, you need to get them out through movement. So I could say, okay, why don't you go to the gym and why don't you work out? A bunch of people are going to be like, are you nuts? I'm not going to the gym. How many of us like to dance and like to sing? A lot of us. Especially in church, we move, we sing, we belt out tunes when we're praising and worshiping. We move. We run. Okay? You're doing it in church. So you're literally in church while you're doing that. You're doing a trauma-informed movement. You're doing your dance party at church. This is exactly what it is. So you're dancing and moving and dancing and moving. Well, while you're singing, you're inhaling and exhaling. Because you're inhaling very deep into your lungs and then you're exhaling as you're singing. So you're constantly inhaling and exhaling. If you don't start breathing deep, the lower half of your lungs are not going to function properly. It's a known fact. See, ask any pulmonologist, they will tell you. Then what happens is all the CO2 stays in your lungs and gets stuck in your bronchioles and your bronchi and all that deep down into your lungs that look like the roots coming off. If you don't start getting all of that out there by doing your deep breathing exercises, you'll never be able to do anything else because you're going to be so short-winded. So what dance party does is it not only gets you to move, but it gets you to start inhaling and exhaling to those deep breaths that you need to start getting rid of all of that CO2 that lives in your lungs. You're literally getting it out of your mouth and then you're breathing in fresh air. And that's exactly what you're doing. And so dance party, do it with your kids. It's a form of regulation. I love dance party. I love belting out tunes. I don't care if I look like a goofball or not. Guess what? That's okay. I can look like a goofball all I want, but I'm regulated and I'm working my lungs and I'm working my body. And that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Hi, Sly. So good to see you. Relational. So retraumatizing looks like being ignored in relationships. Do you like to be ignored? Because I know I don't. Being criticized. How many of you have been criticized in your relationships? How many? Oh, you're stupid. You can't do that. Or, oh, you're fat. You're ugly. All of those types of things. You don't like someone walking behind you. I do not like anybody walking behind me. It probably took every bit of my husband's in the chat. Probably every bit of 18 years maybe for my husband to finally be able to touch my neck and to come behind me. I wanted to swing on him. So, and it was just like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So Michael, are you watching on Facebook? Oh no, wait, you are on, no, you're on, sorry, you're on YouTube. No, he's on YouTube too. Sorry. It says that he's on YouTube. From what I see, I don't know. He might be on Facebook. I don't know, but it looks like he is, says YouTube. So I'm not exactly sure. You guys can't see his comments at all. And so it probably took every bit, like, again, of 18 years. Oh, okay. Yep, you're right. No, he should be on. I forgot. Yeah, I forgot I'm streaming on my my other one, the nervous system regulation or nervous system reset studio. Yeah, so I forgot about that one as well. I don't know if he's on that one or not. I don't know. Who knows? And so it took me a long time. I don't like when anybody comes up behind me. And so when I'm at church and I'm praising and worshiping, it's interesting because I get into the spirit, and it happened to me again on Sunday. Or last Sunday, it happened to me, and bless this poor woman's heart. She didn't know, but I was praising and worshiping, and I was just, the spirit was coming over me, and I was just, praising and worshiping with my eyes closed, and she touched me and scared the living daylights out of me. And so I was like, okay. I'm like, okay, God, like, I know I'm okay, but that just scares the bejeebies out of me, because in that moment, you close your eyes, you just, you want to feel peace and you want to relax. And then it's like somebody touches you and it's like, well, wait a minute. Okay. I'm even sitting in my office. So where I sit, I have a door and two windows. And so the doors in front of me, my two windows are on the left and right of me. And I will not have my back to any of the windows, and I will not have my back to the door, because I need to be able to see if you're coming in, even though my windows are locked and even though my door creaks. Doesn't matter, because in that second that it takes you to open the door, and that second it takes me to open my eyes, I don't know what could take place. And so it's like, okay. So in that moment, I have to sit here and calm myself down, ground myself, do my regulation skills, do my meditation in the moment of building myself up so I can do what I'm doing to be able to relax and know, and things like that too. Sorry, I'm like kind of lost. I have my notes, but I was like, oh, wait a minute. I kind of lost myself. Yeah, sorry. I got to keep my notes so I can stay on track a little bit. I'm feeling trapped or pressured. So that's another one. And so internally, what happens, we start feeling those body sensations that we talked about. Your chest is going to start getting tight. You're going to start feeling those body sensations. You might start feeling it in your shoulders. You might start feeling it in your neck. Your eyes might start twitching. You have no idea what type of body reaction you're going to end up having. You're going to start feeling stress, exhaustion, your hormones. And so this is what retraumatization in the body looks like. Your hormones are going to start maybe fluctuating. And then certain thoughts or memories start coming to mind. And so, trauma survivors, a lot of us, it's the trauma that drives the thoughts. It's the trauma that drives those. And so we have to look at, are we regulated or are we dysregulated? Where are we? And so, it's explaining that the triggers are reminders. They're not a form of weakness. It's a reminder. What are you trying to tell me? Why is my body going into activation? Well, why am I activated? Because of years of carrying something that you've ignored. And a lot of people don't know this, but, thinking about like triggers and the reminders are not weakness. But like for me, I have a lot of tattoos. And my kids keep saying, oh, Mom, we need to go get another tattoo and stuff. And so I'm like, okay, I will probably get 2 more tattoos. As much as I hate the thought of the idea, I have 2 more tattoos that I'm going to get. And the 2 tattoos that I'm going to get is I'll probably end up getting 1 tattoo for my youngest, because I have all the other kids. And if I don't get her on there, then I don't want her to think I don't want her to be left out. And I don't want her to think like, oh my goodness, like, Mom's got everybody else's, got everybody else on her body but me. So I don't want her to get left out. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get her tattooed. And then we want to go do Ohana. So, for me and my kids. And so the three oldest, we will go get them. And then if the two youngest want to follow years later, they're more than welcome to. But I'm still on the fence. I'm on the fence because of this. This is how I know that I'm healing. This is another indication that that God has brought me through the storm, and that I'm really getting on this other side of healing. When I look at what I did emotionally, when I looked at my chosen emotional response for my coping skills, it was negative. So I'm really no different than someone who cuts themselves. Think about it. In that moment, I may not have been cutting myself, but I was literally allowing somebody else to do it for me. And so in the midst of the tattoos that I got, they're beautiful. I don't regret any of them because it's a part of my testimony. It's a part of my story. I don't regret any of them because they all have a story behind them. But one thing that I noticed was this. In the moment of getting all of my tattoos, except for a couple that I was on my healing journey, they numbed the pain for a short time. And in that moment, I was able to say, wow, I don't feel pain. All I could feel was the pain of the needle permeating my skin as the ink was jabbed into my skin. And if you have a tattoo, you know, and that can be excruciating, especially my back. I sat through there, and I have a big back piece. It's not small. I have a big back piece, and I have I don't know, like a half sleeve. And it was in those moments that I was so dysregulated that I was using art as a form of self-mutilation, of self-harm, because I didn't want to feel that pain anymore. I was looking for something else. And that came to me like 3 or 4 days ago. That came to me, and I was like, oh my goodness, that makes sense now. So there are a couple tattoos that I have gotten since I've on this healing journey, on the other side of healing. And I don't like it. I go in, I feel like I'm going to vomit. I feel like I'm going to pass out. And I tell my husband and I tell my kids, I don't know if I want to get any more tattoos. Like, I don't need any more. I love the tattoos that I have, but I just don't know anymore. And they say, Mom, you still have a whole other arm to do. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? No, like it's not for me anymore. But then I go back and say, I don't want my daughter to feel left out. And so do you see, like, now it's like, oh, wait a minute, I don't want her to feel left out. Okay, now I'm trying to be like, oh, I gotta put myself first. But so I'm all over the place. So chances are I probably will. I'll probably go and get like a little piece of her thumbprint on my body and just be done. Or just something small that symbolizes something about her, maybe. And I've been thinking about that for about 1.5 or 2 years now, and I just haven't gotten it yet. Because that's not where I sit anymore. That's not who I am anymore. When I had the addiction of jewelry, same thing. When I think about jewelry, I think about it re-traumatizes me in the moment going, ugh, like I chose jewelry. Like I'm so grateful that I didn't choose any of the other addictive coping skills. I'm very grateful. I'm very blessed. But then I look at all the jewelry and I was like, oh boy, like what it does to me is I remember. I remember why that piece of jewelry was bought for me. I remember why that one was bought for me. And so that's why it re-traumatizes me. So that's why a lot of the jewelry that I have, I don't wear. Because I don't like what it represents. I don't like where it was bought in my life. And a lot of that jewelry was bought at a place that people that hurt me were giving me jewelry to apologize. So that's why I don't wear it anymore. It sits in the jewelry box. It just sits. And so I don't know what I'll do with it. I don't know if I'll pass it on to my girls. I don't know. You know what? I'm not exactly sure what I'll do with it. Maybe someday God will give me the answer, but as of right now, it's just sitting there collecting dust. And I am going to make a video. God laid a vision on my heart today. Because when we think of addiction, we only think of drugs and alcohol. We don't think of the multitude of addictions that are out there. And so, which one are you on, babe? It shouldn't be. Let me see what this one is. Let me change it. No, I shouldn't have it set. I don't know. I don't know how you change it. It shows me horizontal, so I don't know. Where are you watching? What are you on YouTube watching? So I don't know. Like, I'm not exactly sure because like this is they changed everything. So like I don't even know. Gives me the option to do something, but I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. Sorry. So yeah. So anyway, God gave me a vision to do another video, just to kind of showcase, how my unhealed self to my healed self. That's the season that I am sharing my unhealed self to my healed self because so many people need to hear it and things like that. And so let me give you some practical, simple tools. So naming, they do have two versions. And I think I tried to shut off the vertical. I don't know. So healedish, you're on healedish. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I try to shut that one off. Oh, wait, show vertical. Oh, there it is there. Show a preview of your broadcast vertical. So I don't know. Oh, well, I don't know. That's weird. Oh, I guess it shows me both ways. So I don't know. I guess I'll have to figure out how to get rid of that one because I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. I thought I had it hidden. But yeah, I don't know how to get it off there because I think it's both of them. So I'm not exactly sure. Let me see if I can hit. Oh, sorry, hit the wrong button. I thought maybe I could do it, but it's weird because now I'm like, okay, I'm going to hide the vertical. So I guess it just does two. And I'm assuming it's for whoever is on your phone or if you're wherever. So anyway, okay. So what helps in the moment? So practical, simple tools. So naming what's happening. So I'm triggered. I'm not in danger. So that's what you need to tell yourself, because if you're triggered and you, all of a sudden you're like danger, danger, all of a sudden what's happening is your amygdala is going to start with the fight or flight. Your prefrontal cortex is going to shut off. And then what's going to happen is your body's going to start dumping a bunch of cortisol and adrenaline because your amygdala is going danger, 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 danger. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. When there's really not a danger, your body's just sensing something. And so, naming what's happening, I'm triggered, I'm not in danger. So breath work. So we talk about it, long exhales, box breathing, hand over your heart. But one thing that I do want to mention when you're doing your breath work, try to make sure that you're inhaling out of your nose and exhaling out of your nose, or inhaling in your nose and exhaling slowly out of your mouth. What we're trying to do is calm you down. We're not trying to send you in overactive. We're not trying to overstimulate you. And if you are inhaling very quickly and exhaling very quickly out of your nose, or inhaling very quickly, exhaling very quickly out of your mouth, you're going to stay in this dysregulated state because it's keeping you in that sympathetic nervous system state. What we are trying to do is switch you to the parasympathetic, which is where your rest and digest, where your peace and calm comes from. And so, your longer exhales would be more or less like you're going to inhale for 4, exhale for 6, and you're going to do that in a frame of 5. One of the other things I like doing is the 5-finger breathing. And so you start at the thumb, you go up to the thumb, and on the up, you inhale. And on the down low, you exhale. So you're going to inhale. You're not going to go fast, but just do it at a steady movement. And then you're going to inhale and then exhale, inhale and exhale. And you get the idea. So I call this the 5-finger breathing technique. And I really like this one. And it's because you have a tangible way of seeing where you're breathing. And so you're tangibly looking at your hand while you're breathing. And I really like that one too. Grounding skills, looking around the room going, using the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. And so that is pretty much 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can smell, um, like 1 thing you can visualize, and 1 thing you can eat. Something along those lines. I'm not exactly sure what they are. Something along the lines like that. And so the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. Touching something with texture. And so I love this. Hold on a minute. Let me get mine. I love this. So when you actually touch something with texture, what happens is it gives you grounding, it gives you regulation. And so this is Mr. Bunny, and this is my squid. And so they are made out of chunky yarn. And if you touch them, they're textured. So the ears kind of stand out. It's got a buddy tail, the nose. And when you feel it, you can feel the texture. So I tell my clients all the time to get a chunky animal like this, because in moments of activation, something, touching something that is textured. Doesn't have to be this. If you're sitting on a couch, sometimes the new couches, they have some sort of texture to them. Start stroking it, start rubbing it. You'll notice that your mind deflects and goes back to that, and you feel grounded. Same thing with my squid. So his little tentacles here are twisted. And so when I feel them, I can feel the twist. I can feel it. And so it takes my mind off what's going on and saying, oh, this is twisted. And then it goes back, and I can feel that. You can do it if you have a blanket. Sometimes people have textured blankets. Sometimes people have sequins or some kind of design on your shirt. You can rub over, and things like that too. And so, really making sure that you're touching something with texture, because remember I said, you can't be in 2 places at one time unless you're straddling the state line. You can't be regulated and dysregulated at the same time. Just like you can't be angry and happy at the same time. Remember that. Orienting the room, kind of looking around, orienting what's happening in the room. Bop it. Oh, yeah. You want me to bop it? I'll bop it. Boop, bop it. Yep. We could play bop it too. Yeah. No, I remember that game. Bop it and pull it. And yeah, that game. And then when you lose your lack of concentration, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. What's going on? And so orient in the room. Just really looking around and grounding yourself, knowing and feeling that safety. Using temperature. Is the room hot? Is the room cold? Are you drinking something hot? Are you drinking something cold? Feeling that go down your throat as you're drinking it. Do you feel the coldness? Do you feel the warmth? Grounding yourself in that moment. It's interesting. When when you're just drinking a cold soda or you're drinking a hot coffee, are you really being mindful to what you're drinking? Or are you just drinking it to drink it? Are you really feeling the cold? Or are you really feeling the warmth? Chances are you're not. Unless you burn yourself or it's so cold, you're like, whoa, now I have a headache. And stuff like that. And it's really, really thinking about that. So other things that help in the moment: walking, going outside and walking, shaking hands, stretching and light tapping. Another thing that I want to add is, do you know why dogs shake, or any animal shakes for that moment, or for that matter, I'm just saying dogs because, we have dogs and dogs shake. So the reason that they say that dogs shake is because of stress. It's because they are trying to shake off that stress. And so in moments of stress, they say, be an animal. Start shaking your whole entire body and just shaking. Yeah, I might get dizzy doing that, especially while I'm kind of looking at the camera, looking at myself going, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm going to make myself dizzy. But in the moment when you shake, you're literally shaking off that stress. You're shaking off everything in that moment and doing all of that. So thinking about that. So walking, shaking, shaking out hands, shaking hands, stretching, and using, the shoulder to shoulder, light tapping. You can tap. If you tap here, it helps. Tap under your eyes, your head, find tapping. Tapping is wonderful. Tapping and stuff like that too. Connection, talking to a safe person. This is where the relational healing comes into play. Talking to a safe person, saying saying out loud, sorry, I need support, and really going above and beyond. And because a lot of trauma survivors, we don't like to ask for help. We don't like to. And so, asking builds that relationship. But when you ask for help, Um, Sometimes people won't give us help. They'll say, "Oh yeah, we'll help you," and then they don't. And so it's going with the expectation that you're hoping that they help, but there's a chance that they're not going to help. Because if you go in thinking, "Oh, 100% they're going to help," and then they don't, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up to be angry. And then that might bring up some shame of why, why? What's wrong with me? Why did they not want to do this, this, and this? And so really taking a step back and going, okay, I'm asking them for help, which you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. But if they don't help me, you know, wait, you're stepping out of your comfort zone 100%, but stepping out of it with the inclination that if they don't help me, then I'm okay with that. Don't give 100% of yourself just to be let down, because unfortunately people are going to let you down. If you ask for help and they don't help you, then let that be a weighing factor that maybe in the future you don't ask them for help, or maybe you ask them for something small. And if they continue to let you down and not help, then you know not to ask them anymore. Don't go back and continue to ask them, or anything like that too. So, um, yeah, so those are some of the things that we do. Um, and with the real raw truth coming into retraumatization. And so one of the things that I love doing, as you all know, is the neurosomatic art. And so, the art gives the brain something rhythmic, safe, sensory to focus on. And so that's why I love it. And so, when I'm able to draw, my focus is on what I'm drawing. And so the intuitive lines regulate the nervous system. And then the rounding, what it does is it releases the tension and softens the internal pressure. And that's what I love. And so sometimes we don't have words. And so we bypass words and we draw. And so another thing that I absolutely love is it reconnects the prefrontal cortex through the patterns, repetition, and creativity. So not only is it activating and reconnecting the prefrontal cortex, but it's actually working on the anterior cingulate cortex too. So if somebody tells you that you're lazy or this or that, it really goes back to it's a trauma response. Chances are you're probably not really lazy if you've endured trauma. It's just because the anterior cingulate cortex and the prefrontal cortex is offline. And so what I love is when trauma hijacks your thinking brain, art becomes the bridge back to yourself. And so that's why I love drawing. I love it because so many of us don't want to talk. We don't want to talk about our trauma. We don't want to talk about things. Let's just draw and get it over with. And I shouldn't say over with in a negative way because I don't mean it like that. But you know what? Let's draw. Let's draw it out. Let's draw what you're feeling. So that's why I absolutely love it. That's my go-to. I've been learning a lot more nervous system skills, and a lot more grounding skills, especially because we have a conference coming up in April of 2026, and it's happening in Salina, Ohio. It's going to be phenomenal. And so part of what I'm doing is the grounding. I want to be able to teach grounding skills and on a whole new level. Because there's so many different things that we can teach when it comes to grounding and regulation and things like that. And so I will be doing the art, but I want to teach people that even if they don't like to draw, what other regulation skills that you can use in the moment to keep your nervous system regulated. And this is not a one and done. You just can't go and be like, oh, I'm going for a walk and oh, I'll feel better, or and stuff. You will start to feel better the more that you do it. The more that you do it, and things like that too. And another thing, I think I've taught you this before, but another thing I want to teach you as far as a nervous system regulation is so many of us. How many of you clench your jaws when you're sleeping or just clench your jaws when you're stressed? Do you feel yourself biting down and you can literally feel it? Well, I know that I do because I broke two of my molars and had to have two root canals. And now one of my other back teeth is broke. So yeah, I know that I clench my jaws. I don't like wearing my mouth guard because I feel like it's going to fall out and I'm going to choke, just like being realistic. So I don't wear it. But I know in moments of stress because my jaw is like, oh my goodness, like just release, release, release. And so one of the things that I want to teach you, because I know that I'm not the only one. So one of the things I want to teach you is the jaw release. And so what happens is open your mouth real big. And then what you're going to do is you're going to do like the cha-cha slide. So you're going to slide to the left, and then you're going to slide to the right. Then you're going to slide to the left and slide to the right. So you're going to open your mouth real wide. I probably look like a weirdo, and that's okay. In that moment, what you're doing is not only are you regulating your nervous system, but you're literally removing all of that trapped trauma, those trapped emotions, that trapped tension that lives right along your mandible and all of your jaw. You're releasing that. And so by doing that a few times a day, you're literally going to start noticing that your jaw will start loosening up, and you will have less amounts of the stress that's held in your jaw. And so I don't care how goofy I look, it's okay. As long as I'm able to teach you a regulation skill. Um, Journaling. One of the other things when you become re-traumatized is journaling. If you're in a place that you can journal, just writing down what re-traumatized you, and then going back and saying, okay, in this moment, what could I have done differently? Not being hard on yourself, giving yourself grace, but really saying, okay, what are some things that I could have done differently in that moment, and teaching yourself. Use it as a teachable moment, because your nervous system is trying to teach you things. And so just really using it as a teachable moment. And so tonight when we close, I just want to validate each and every one of you. As you go through this healing journey, it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's so rewarding when you get to the other side and you're starting to see the healed version of yourself. You're starting to figure out who you truly are. Because let's just be frank. I'm going to say from the age of 16, 15, so for 35 years, I didn't know who I was. No idea who I was. I walked around oblivious thinking I knew who I was, and here I am trying to figure out who I am at 50 years old. Who am I? Who am I? Why am I here? What is my journey? What is, who am I? Or not who am I? Who am I? But what am I supposed to be doing? What is my authentic self? And I'm slowly starting to figure out, God is slowly uncovering who I am. God is slowly uncovering what I'm supposed to be doing and leading me into my authentic self. My authentic self is who I am today, who I am sitting here. I am true. I am real. I am raw. I still have flaws, but I am who I am. I don't beat around the bush. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. If you don't like what I want to hear, what I'm going to say, then don't ask me for my opinion. I may say things that hurt your feelings, and it's not like I'm saying it. I sometimes I think before I say before I think, and I'm learning. I'm learning how to think before I say. And so, give me grace. But sometimes I may say something that may hurt your feelings, and I don't mean it to. Just maybe coming at a place of love and caring. And sometimes we need to hear the hard truth, just like I shared tonight. Sometimes we need to hear that hard truth. That doesn't mean that I'm here to try to hurt you or anything like that. I just want you to understand, why we have all these labels, and really know that I really do love and care for each and every one of you. Retraumatization is a body response, not a character flaw. And so it's what happened to us on the inside. It's the body keeps the score. So don't look at it like it's a flaw, because it's really not. It's going back and saying, okay, this is what happened. This is what my body's telling me. How can I help my body feel safe? It goes back to safety is exactly what it is. And when we start changing the nervous system, we can start healing. When you're living in a dysregulated state, you will never get to your healing. That's why when I started working with clients and I started writing my workbooks, my 12, 16, and 24-week workbook, God literally said to me, you're doing it wrong. What do you mean I'm doing it wrong? You can't jump into a session with somebody that has a dysregulated nervous system. Huh? Why? Because they won't talk. They won't? No. Okay. Well, I didn't know that. So it makes me see over the last 3-4 years of doing this, why people struggle to talk, or why people weren't getting the amount of healing that they wanted. Now I see it. And so we have to make sure that our nervous system is changing, to regulated, because when it's regulated, you start healing more and more and more. You start finding out who you truly are and start finding your authentic self. And when you start finding your authentic self, I'm sorry to say it, but you might lose friends, realistically speaking, because you're not the same person. You're elevating. You're leaving some things behind. Unfortunately, it may be friends. So you have to be ready for that. You have to be ready for that. And so, what I invite you to do is, I invite you to research some regulation skills. I invite you to breathe and draw, move toward regulation, because that's what it's all about. If you want to breathe, if you want to draw, whatever, because that's what it's all about. It's about learning to regulate your nervous system. That's what this is all about. How re-traumatizing us is your nervous system dysregulating, and how you can have the skills and the tools, skills, and resources needed to regulate your nervous system. That's what it is. It's what it is. And so I would appreciate it if you would subscribe, if you would share, follow, and then, you can follow, if you can subscribe, share, follow, because you never know when somebody's going to need to hear this, and really resonate with somebody. So we have so many trauma survivors out there that unfortunately have not found their voice through no fault of their own. And so by sharing this to all your social medias, I would really, really appreciate that, because it really will send off, and you never know who needs to see it, because there's so many people out there. And so we are the voice for the voiceless. We are the connection, or that support group, and here in that connection, and kind of helping. And so if you are interested in our weekend retreat summit that's coming up April 17th and 18th, that'll be in Salina. I would love to have you join us. I'm revamping the website, and it'll be probably finished by, I'm going to say, the middle towards the middle end of December. And of course, when I come back, and it's finished, I'll be sharing it and stuff like that. But it's going to be an amazing time. There's going to be so much at this retreat that it's going to be life-changing. And so it's going to be in Salina, and we are just so happy to represent Salina mental health and trauma in that town, and just to be able to bring so much healing and love and support to all of the people of Salina and surrounding areas and stuff like that too. So I really cannot wait to be there. And so again, I appreciate each and every one of you for being here, and for sharing and just listening, and absorbing it all in, taking it all in, and taking your notes and doing whatever you need to do. And I'm hoping that this resonated. If this resonated with each and every one of you, that you will figure out a nervous system regulation skill that really works for you, because it really does work. But again, it's kind of like a medicine. You have to take it. You have to do it in order to get it, in order to see results. So just remember that you have to be able to do something to see results. And so I will be thinking about each and every one of you. I wasn't really, I was paying attention to the chat a little bit, but those that have seasonal depression, my heart goes out to you. I will really be praying for you. As always, you know that I'm here for you. So if you have something that you need to get off your chest, you just need, somebody just to listen to you, you're always more than welcome to email me. You know where my email is. You can find it. And I'll try to do my best to be there for you and help you feel seen and heard and supported. So again, thank you so much for everybody being here on another episode of Healedish. I will see you next Monday. I hope each and every one of you have a happy Thanksgiving, a safe week, and a safe weekend. And we will see you next week. Good night, warriors.